Hi folks, it's Steve from Azimuth Images here again. Didn't make a video last week, had to do something called work, which is terribly inconvenient, but gets in the way, such is life. Today we're going to show you how I achieved this photo, or this image to be more precise. I never really call them photographs because, as we all know, I cheat, or some people call it process, from a start image that looks rather like that. And as you can see, it's a bit flat, a bit boring. If I zoom in on it a few times, so if I just choose my center point and go Control 1, I think that's Command 1 on a Mac to get the 100% zoom, you can see it is what can only be described as horrendously noisy and not overly sharp. So we go back Control 0 to get back to a normal screen. And this is because it was shot in a rather gloomy path. It looks more beautiful in my image than it does in real life. There's literally a row of trees on your left and a row of trees on your right. And this path goes on for a significant distance. And I thought, lens ball time. But I didn't take any of my tripods with me, which is foolish. But there you go. And this meant that I ended up shooting it at a very high ISO, 1600 on my D7200 Nikon, at about f8, because I wanted a controlled depth of field, and that gave me a shutter speed of around an 80th, which, handheld, leaning on the dirt as I was, it was a bit kind of pushing things. I knew I was going to have to work on it. So here's actually how this image came about. Yeah, there's Wally in the most attractive pose you'll ever see a photographer, and I am clearly, as you can see, laying down in the dirt, much to the horrification, whatever, horror, that'll do, of my good lady who has to do the laundry. You can just about see here is the lens ball I've mentioned in some of my previous videos. That is a 100mm solid glass lens ball. Weighs a lot, fabulous piece of kit, and that's where we started from. So we had the good lady photographing me in action. The start image is over here. And I say, if we zoom into it, it's pretty obvious straight away. It is very, very noisy, and to be fair, not fantastically sharp. So how did we end up with this, which is rather quite nice? And if I zoom in and go full screen on this with Control 1, Command 1 if you're on a Mac, for a start, you can see the noise has gone. And if we move down a bit, it's also really quite nicely sharp. Now, it's never going to be crystal sharp everywhere. That's just not how it happens with lens balls. The way they work, they just distort everything so much that you're never going to get everything totally sharp. So it's a question overall of what does the whole image look like. So we'll Control 0 back to where we start. And if I flick between the two, you'll see that we've got quite a nice autumnal, orangey, yellowy color here that's quite sweet. Some nice green in the background, and yeah, a typical dirt path. So how do we get there? So there's the start image. That is, say, shot at 1600 ISO. 80th of a second at f8 on a Nikon D7200, 7200 if you prefer. So the first thing I did, as ever, is duplicate the layer, and I've done this already to make the video run a little more smoothly, and I then put that through Topaz software. And I've been using Topaz for quite a while now. I've got denoise and sharpen, and in all fairness, if I had the choice again, I probably would not buy denoise, purely because sharpen has denoise function in it as well. That said, if you just want to denoise, denoise is significantly faster than running sharpen, which is why I've done these preview images and already lined them up for you. Otherwise, it does take quite a while to process. So the first thing I did was create a duplicate layer, and then I put that through Topaz. So if I show the settings I used for that, then I'll cancel back out to show you, because otherwise we're going to waste loads of time processing. So I went down to Topaz Labs, run it through Topaz Sharpen, and I'll briefly fly through the Topaz thing. Maybe one day I'll do a proper Topaz video, but it's not going to be today. So here we go with the opening image, and you can see it is ridiculously noisy, and Topaz once more says, do you want to update? And I'm going to say no, because it works now, so I'm going to leave it alone. You can have a choice of options with Topaz. We've got the option here to auto suggest the technique it is going to apply, and there's a choice of 3. And we auto that, and it's chosen focus, fair enough. And we can then also auto apply the strength that it thinks is appropriate to the image. From practical experience, I had a few goes at this image. I know it could lose some sharpness without too much hassle. So if you ever use noise suppress, then you are ultimately going to detail suppress to some degree as well. And this is where things like Topaz do a really good job. Can't do miracles, but they can walk on water if the sea is calm. So the default setting here at 63 on the noise suppression, I felt didn't really do what I wanted it to do. I felt it could go a little bit stronger. And you're free to grab hold of sliders and move things to where you want. And I eventually processed this one around the 80% mark. One thing I would say if you are using Topaz is untick the auto update preview. Every time you move a slider, it will update the preview. It will drive you crazy waiting for the preview update. So my suggestion is untick auto update preview, fiddle with the sliders, hit the update up here, and then see what comes of it all. So that's why I allowed it to go for the auto sharpness, and I then chose to override the noise reduction figure. So I will cancel out that. Normally you would just go apply. It will take this, even with my machine, which is quite a brute, a good 4 or 5 minutes. And therefore I've just done that for you. But it is worth it, as you'll see in just a moment. So I'll cancel out of that. It'll say, do you really mean it? And here we go. So if we make this layer live now, this is the one that's had Topaz applied to it. And if I now go and zoom into it with 100%, so Control-1, Command-1 if you're on a Mac, you can now see that is a really good improvement. There is some noise left. There's no two ways about it. I'm not claiming it's perfect, but it certainly is better than it was. And overall, that noise will get lost in the background when we further process the image. I've done a bit of a before and after with this as well, so I can show you the sort of before and after within Topaz. I'll drop that into the video. So that'll work like that. Then I quite like that. I thought that's okay. So back to a normal screen. And I thought it's nice, but it's really not. It doesn't punch. It's not alive. It hasn't got much to it. So I then fired it through another filter. So I left that layer now that already has Topaz applied to it, duplicated that layer, and then I ran it through good old Skylum. So into Skylum, bit of Luminar 4, and I thought we'll see what Skylum can do on the auto settings. You can call this cheating, you can call it what you like, I don't really mind. To me, the important part is what's the end result, and the end result I like. And as ever, if I like it, it's a great image. If you like it, it's a fabulous one. So Skylum loads up its kind of first previews, and I'm using the Essentials panel at the moment. You can download loads and loads more. So it'll update with a few suggestions, and I'm going to go when it wakes up to the automatic enhanced. You can see instantly the detail there. So without, with, and frequently 100% application, which is what this is at the moment, does lead to some quite strong effects, well, 100%, which can be a little bit extreme. But in this particular case, I really felt the image could stand it. So I then did apply, and then that put me back to where we are over here. So if I close down there, we end up with that, which I think is really quite nice. And that's kind of where I chose to finish the processing as such. If I go to my Control-1 to get full screen of it, we've still got a little bit of noise down there. I am going to tolerate that. I think overall, though, the image stands it quite nicely. It never was going to be a stunning example of sharpness. But we've got some nice little marks down here in the leaves. It really looks quite something. Yes, at 100%, if you make this into a 4-foot canvas, it's going to have some noise to it. There's no two ways around it. But all in all, I rather quite like that. So we'll zoom back out of that one. I then cropped it just a little to lose a little bit of the foreground. I felt down here was just a little bit too much. I wanted to give the idea of some depth to it, but not quite that much. And ultimately, when I'd finished and played cropsies, we ended up like that. And that lost some of the bottom fuzziness as well. So there's how I got to that image. That's how I did it. There are many, many different ways of doing these things. You do it whichever way you want. That is absolutely entirely your choice, as they say. I hope you enjoyed today's little video. Hopefully I'll be a bit more prolific next week. I've booked myself some time next week. As ever, if you like it, it's a great image. Stay safe. See you for the next one.